And then you have hero tokens. These are basically inspiration from 5e. Except they are tracked in a pool, so it's not individual. The entire party gets hero tokens, and the entire party can spend from the pool. Basically, anytime you get a hero token, or you get hero tokens anytime you do something heroic. So the examples it gives: a hero who leaps off a cliff to reach the bottom and aid a friend, who crosses a burning bridge to save a stray cat, or who wagers their most prized treasure as part of a negotiation to get shelter for a group of refugees, might earn a hero token. The director has final say regarding what heroic acts earn hero tokens. Here's what I'll say about this. Is this still a little bit of the Mother May I problem like inspiration? It is. Yes. However, I like this better because it's very specific about what kinds of things should earn hero tokens, right? It doesn't just say, like 5e says something along the lines, oh, if your players do something cool or something funny or something heroic, like it gives you a big, very broad general list that's really vague. This is specifically saying if they do a heroic action and take a big risk to save somebody else. If they do the superhero thing, if they do the Superman save the squirrel, they get a hero token. It does still have the problem that the director has to remember to give it to people, but at least the director has a more specific kind of action to be keeping an eye out. You know what I mean?
Is sort of. I'm with you that I really like. Yes, it is better, but I still do not like the way that this is handled. There are a lot of systems that they talk about up front that have to involve your GM basically just deciding to slide you a crisp high five, and I find this annoying because, as we talked about in the Mother May I episode, discussion in conversation is not Mother May I, right? If the example, I was talking to Paladin about this yesterday. If there's a situation in a game like Fabula where it's like you cause a storm, like talk to your DM about how that works. The conversation is not whether or not you can do it, it's the details about that thing. So if you're in a desert as opposed to an ocean, maybe it's a sandstorm, maybe it does fire damage as opposed to lightning damage. That's the conversation I like. Whether or not I get one of the primary currencies of the game, yeah, that I'm not vibing with.
I mean, the hero tokens are not really one of the primary currencies of the game. They're very much a little extra bonus, right? Like, they're not intended to be vital. But like, yeah, it still has that little bit of the Mother May I problem, but it's a lot better if you're more specific about it. I think that helps a lot. And because it's kind of a little side bonus thing, I'm mostly fine with it. You just remind your director every once in a while, like, hey, is that hero token worthy? You know, like, I don't know. That's not too bad. That's not that much worse than like spending a Fabula point, I feel like.
Right, but with Fabula, you have very clear rules for what you can and cannot do and what you can or cannot spend them on and how you can or cannot get them. Right, it's not up to a GM whether or not
can or can't get them, but I'm talking about when you do it on the changing the story one, that requires your GM to like be like, yes, it's okay, you can do that. You know what I mean? I'm talking about that one specifically.
Sort of. Here's the thing.
This is not that far away from that.
It is and it isn't, right? Because we have confirmation in a pseudo errata that when it comes to the narrative editing thing, there's not much that you can't do, right?
No, like, but the GM still can ultimately say, I don't want to deal with that. You know, like, I just don't, that's going to be too disruptive.
Like, yes and no, it's an unspoken rule that they can say no to those things. Or like, it's spoken, but the rule has always read to me that you should err on the side of say yes, unless it's like, can I one-shot the final boss? And that's when you say no.
But I think that's true in this scenario too. I think you should err on the side of giving them the token whenever the action felt heroic in like even a little bit. Like I think that's the case here too.
Fair enough. I think the language is clearer in Fabula.
I don't know. I mean, the examples they give for the earning hero tokens thing, I feel like makes it pretty clear to me. Like when they mention like jumping off a cliff, saving the cat, helping the refugees, I feel like that makes it like solidifies what kind of actions it wants.
I suppose. I don't know. I'm not in love with it. I think
once you, I mean, I'm fine. I wouldn't want it not. I wouldn't want to remove it. That's for sure.
I wouldn't want to remove it. I would want clarification on it. If you do this thing, then you do get that thing. Because this game is sort of afraid, and they talk about it, right? The like, you can't re-up your heroic resource by just like squishing a rat in your bag of rats every time you want to get a new thing.
Yes.
The game is clearly afraid of that, which I don't think it should be.
I mean, I disagree. I think that's worth being afraid of because there are jackass players who do that kind of shit.
Right, but we've said before, don't build for assholes. That's where you give the GM authority to just say, no, you can't do that.
But the game doesn't design. There's nothing in the game where they try to design around that problem. They just say to you, don't let people do that. So I don't think they're designing for assholes in this case.
I think they are. I think if you take the time to write down a bespoke thought from the GM in the rulebook that says, no, you cannot squish rats to get your heroic resource back. That's not a straight up rule, but that is a ruling.
But there's a difference between giving the director some advice on how to handle that problem and trying to tightly design a mechanic in such a fashion that like physically can't happen. Right? Like 5E has this thing where they're trying to design it so tightly that that's just never going to happen. Whereas in this game, it's like, yes, someone could try to abuse that. Don't let them abuse that. I think that's fine. Like, I don't see any major mechanics in this game that got compromised by the mentality of designing around assholes.
I feel like that thing is right there. Like, I think what the ruling on the squishing the rats in the bag, that is designing for assholes. Because again, you took the time to bring it up and you're not even really referencing the GMs. It's not even really advice because it's not referencing the GM. It's basically saying, you player, you can't do that. Hold on. I'm trying to find where it is in the book. Give me a second.
I guess, I don't know. I just don't think that kind of wording is that disruptive. Like that saying that, you know, squishing rats in a bag is not heroic, so it doesn't earn victories, I don't feel like is that disruptive to the game, so it's fine to have that in there. It's not literally upending the design. Like it's not affecting the design of the game. They still have the victory system working the way it does. They didn't change the victory system to try and avoid people abusing it. They just said, director and players, don't abuse it.
Right. So,
but like they still design
the rats in a bag thing is not what I have the problem with. The thing that's bothering me is the heroic tokens, and it's the way that they kind of describe like heroic tokens are sort of this up in the air. If you want to do it, you can do it, but it's up to the GM because we don't want people to abuse the system. And they give you an exact example targeted to the players about abusing the system. Like, the game assumes that the system is going to be abused first and foremost, and that is intrinsically planning for assholes.
No, I totally disagree. Every game is going to be abused no matter what you do.
Right, but this game is assuming that there is a player who's reading that book, who's going to abuse that system, and is yelling at that person specifically.
They are assuming correctly
around that ethos.
They are assuming correctly that people are going to do that behavior, so it's mentioning, hey, please don't do that. That would be shitty.
Right, and mentioning it is fine, but when you retroactively plan abilities around it, like leaving victories up to the director.
I don't feel like they've retroactively planned anything around it. Like the way the victory system works, I don't think is built around this problem with assholes assumption. I think it's built in such a fashion that the director is going to present you with suitably heroic battles, and then you will be rewarded for such. And then there might be that one player at the table who's like, what if I try to abuse this system? And then the game is like, well, no, your director is presenting you with these kinds of encounters to do this already. Don't try to like screw your director like that. Like it didn't compromise the design. They designed the thing they wanted to. Right? I don't feel like the design got compromised because of that fear.
I think it did.
I don't understand how, but fine, we're moving on.
We can move on. Yeah, it's fine. But like, yeah, we're just gonna have to agree to disagree on this one.
I really don't follow your logic.
So this is the thing I have to finish on then. You cannot plan something and tell players that they don't have control over gaining one of their key resources, in this instance, heroic resources, whatever you want to call them. Telling players they don't have control over how they get them back.
No, pause. There's this important distinction. What mechanic are you talking about here? Are you talking about hero tokens, victories, or heroic resources? Because those are three distinct things. Those are very, very distinct.
Victories and heroic resources. They named them both in the rats in a bag thing.
No, hold on.
Yes,
pause.
they do.
Pause.
Yes.
Two very different mechanics, because heroic resources have very specific triggers. Victories are the one that are slightly more nebulous based on the director.
Yes, but in this instance, I'm referencing both of them because that is explicitly what is referenced in that blurb. It says, gather up those sweet victories and heroic resources. In this instance, I am leaning more towards victories. So keep that in mind.
Okay.
So in the sense that the game is telling you, again, you cannot do this thing, and then removing a player's ability to control whether or not they get their primary class resource, having that be a thing that has to be awarded to them. And in this instance, I'm talking about victories as opposed to heroic resources, because victories are how you get your, like, how those
victories
charge up your heroic resources,
and
how you get your XP, all that shit.
They're not how you charge up your heroic resources.
They are at round 1. You get a certain amount of them based on your victories. Yes, that is true.
Oh, yes. The very first round, yes. You get a certain amount based on the victories you currently have. But they're not the, like, only option.
No, it's not. And to be fair, again, the heroic resource is less of a problem, but it is the victories thing that is the primary problem. And heroic tokens are sort of part of that insofar as they work almost exactly the same way.
Well, again, hero tokens are a little extra sprinkle on top. They're not like a core thing.
No, they're not a core thing, but it's all sort of connected.
I just don't see anywhere where the design got compromised because of this one little fucking blurb.
The blurb is the compromise.
It's a very minor I mean, Isaiah, do you want players to go around scooping up bags of racks and bonking them on the fucking head to get like free XP?
No, but
like, is that a thing you want?
Don't think that's going to happen commonly.
It is going to happen though. There are those people. That's the problem.
No, yeah, but commonly, right? Because now you're talking about like risk reward stuff. You're getting into an argument of like percentages. How often is this realistically going to happen? Probably not so much. Maybe Matt was just sort of preparing for some like the grognard gamification of things.
Some assholes.
Right. But
how is this
way, and Fabula doesn't bring it up at all. It just says there are situations where I can't remember what they call you, but the GM can say maybe that wasn't worth that thing, or maybe you can't go that far. It's not saying that this
How is that
will
any
happen.
different?
Because one is sort of subtext, like, yeah, maybe this could happen. You have the control to do it. In this case, it's text, and that text is...
But it's such a tiny little paragraph. Like, it's not
a tiny paragraph, though. It's a tiny paragraph in terms of written writing, but what it stands for, what it means, is a massive fucking problem. If I do a fight... In the same way that you can have shitty players, you can have shitty GMs. You do a fight, and the GM just goes, nah, I don't think you get a victory for that. The game is accounting for shitty players, but it's not accounting for shitty GMs.
Well, okay. I mean, first of all, because again, if you That's on the table no matter what. Like, you can't avoid it.
It tells you how you should think about it. But at no point does it even the odds and tell you, if you do this thing, you will get a victory.
Well, because the idea, the director is told to design victory-worthy encounters. Like, that's the other end of it.
Right, but that can, in the same way that someone could ignore the good faith argument of not squishing rats in a bag, and therefore they planned around the rats in a bag thing, the GM can just ignore that, like they ignore giving out advantage in D&D, which is a common fucking problem.
I don't, but what else would you want them to do in this? Like, I don't understand what the alternative here is. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me.
Literally just do the Fabula thing. Tell the GM, this is what awards players victories. You can award them extra ones for doing X, Y, or Z, but realize that they don't always get them. Give them a definitive, then apply the provide them extras.
But the game does.
But it doesn't.
It does say,
there is not a single thing in the first 100 pages of this game that says...
No, it's in the director bits. Towards the back.
There's a rule that says you definitively get a victory if you do X, Y, or Z.
It says, I mean, I don't remember the exact wording, but it says, like, if players do this, they get a victory. Yeah, like, that's basically how it phrases it. Like, if they generally it's talking about in context of like a combat encounter. If they fight a combat encounter on par with their skill, they get a victory.
Right, but there's a caveat in there, because I'm going to read this as it's written. Each time your hero survives a combat encounter in which the party's objectives are achieved, you gain 1 victory. Caveat: the director can decide that a trivially easy encounter does not earn heroes a victory. Yeah. I don't think the director should have the ability to just choose that. If you do a combat encounter, it is choosing. The victor, the director can say, a mechanic. Well, I think you guys. No,
because there's a mechanic. That's not trivial. That's not random or trivial, because there's a mechanic that specifically tells you it's designing the encounter. If the essentially in D&D terminology, the game is saying if it's an easy encounter, they don't get a victory. If it's a medium or hard encounter, they do get a victory. That's essentially what the game is saying. It's not random. It is dictated. There is math behind the encounter building in this game.
Okay, so then therefore we get into a language problem. It is dictated, but it isn't, because you are setting a standard by saying can decide. That's very powerful language. Can decide versus this happens.
I think you're getting way too strung up on like a couple of words and how they phrased it. I really think this is not as big of a problem as you're making. Like, I think you're making a mountain out of a molehill here.
Well, so yeah, is it more? Does it seem more important because we've spent 15 minutes talking about it? Yes, sure. But the fact of the matter is that it is intrinsically isometric. The power is given to the director, not to the players.
That's every tabletop game.
Doesn't have to be. In Fabula, I know exactly what the fuck will give me Fabula points. I know that. I don't have to guess it. I know it. In Lancer, I know exactly what will give me core bonus abilities. I don't have to guess. I don't have to trust Daddy GM. I get one core bonus in combat per mission. I can buy more. GM has no control over that.
Fabula points are not XP points, right? So that's already a weird apples to oranges situation. This is talking about awarding XP, which ultimately is always going to be up to a GM in some fashion, because they're the ones designing the challenge. So here's there's no avoiding that.
It's not as apples to oranges as you think it is, because it's not. Fabula points are not just an extra thing you get. They're not just some sprinkles on top.
I know they're not an extra thing. A lot of class skills
in Fabula are reliant on Fabula points. So in that instance,
but they're not XP points.
Right,
they can get converted to.
They do get converted to.
They get converted when used, but they're not XP when earned. Experiences are very explicitly XP that is like they're the earned XP that gets converted when you rest.
Right. And I have my own problems with that. But
I don't even we need to move on. We're getting absolutely nowhere with this. This is ridiculous.
I don't think it is ridiculous. I think this is a valid problem to have with the game.